day with a decision already made. It is not a wish, not a hope, and not a gamble. It is a certainty. I will win. Winning does not begin in the world outside. It begins in the mind. Long before victory appears in form, it is born as an idea, strengthened by belief, and powered by unwavering faith. Every great achievement in history was once invisible, living only in the thoughts of someone who refused to doubt themselves. I choose to be that person. A definite purpose is the starting point of every form of achievement because without it, effort scatters and energy dissolves. When a person clearly decides what they want, the mind begins to organize itself around that decision. Thoughts gain direction, actions gain meaning, and time stops being wasted on distractions that do not serve the chosen aim. A definite purpose is not a vague desire or a casual wish. It is a firm commitment to a specific outcome, accepted internally as non-negotiable. Most people move through life reacting rather than directing. They allow circumstances, opinions, and temporary emotions to shape their actions. In contrast, a person with a definite purpose acts from intention. They wake up knowing why they must move forward. Even routine tasks become meaningful because they are connected to a larger vision. This clarity removes confusion and replaces hesitation with focus. A definite purpose also strengthens decision-making. When the goal is clear, choices become simpler. Anything that aligns with the purpose is accepted, and anything that conflicts with it is rejected. This mental filter saves energy and prevents inner conflict. Instead of constantly questioning direction, the mind concentrates on execution. Progress accelerates because effort is no longer divided. Challenges do not disappear when purpose is defined, but they lose their power to discourage. Obstacles are seen as part of the journey rather than signs to stop. When the reason for moving forward is strong enough, discomfort becomes tolerable and delay becomes temporary. Purpose transforms resistance into training. Each difficulty becomes evidence that growth is taking place. A definite purpose also builds inner confidence. Confidence does not come from applause or approval, it comes from alignment. When actions match intention, self-trust grows. The individual begins to rely less on external validation and more on inner certainty. This confidence is calm, steady, and resilient. It does not collapse under criticism or slow results. Clarity of purpose also attracts opportunities. When the mind knows what it seeks, it becomes alert to possibilities that were previously invisible. Conversations, ideas, and chances begin to connect in unexpected ways. This is not coincidence, but awareness sharpened by intention. The focused mind notices what the unfocused mind overlooks. Without a definite purpose, effort becomes exhausting because there is no clear destination. People work hard yet feel unfulfilled because their actions are not anchored to a meaningful aim. With purpose, even long hours feel lighter because progress is felt internally before it is visible externally. The individual knows that every step, no matter how small, is moving them closer to something chosen deliberately. A definite purpose also demands responsibility. Once the goal is defined, excuses lose credibility. The individual understands that success or failure depends largely on personal commitment. This awareness shifts the mindset from blame to ownership. Energy previously spent on complaining is redirected into improvement and strategy. Over time, a definite purpose reshapes identity. A person no longer sees themselves as someone who tries, but as someone who is becoming. Habits begin to change naturally to support the goal. Discipline grows not through force, but through desire. The future stops feeling uncertain and starts feeling constructed. When purpose is clear, persistence becomes natural rather than forced. The mind returns to the goal again and again, even after delays or setbacks. This repeated focus imprints the objective deeply, making quitting feel unnatural. The individual may rest, adjust, or rethink, but the direction remains intact. A definite purpose is the silent command given to the mind, instructing it what to build, what to ignore, and what to endure. It is the invisible structure behind visible achievement, shaping effort long before results appear. Belief is key force that gives life to intention. Without belief, even the clearest goal remains distant. But with belief, the mind begins to treat the goal as attainable and worthy of effort. When a person truly believes in their ability to succeed, their thoughts, emotions, and actions align toward that outcome. This alignment creates momentum that cannot be generated by motivation alone. Unshakable belief is not blind optimism. It is a trained state of mind developed through repetition, self-discipline, and conscious control of thought. The mind accepts what it is repeatedly told with feeling and conviction. When belief is planted deeply, doubt loses its influence. Fear may still appear, but it no longer has authority. The individual learns to act in spite of uncertainty because belief provides stability where evidence is not yet visible. Many people wait for proof before believing, but those who achieve lasting success reverse this order. They believe first and allow results to follow. The outer world responds slowly, but the inner world responds immediately. Once belief is established internally, behavior changes without force. Effort becomes consistent, and persistence feels logical rather than painful. Belief also determines the level of action a person is willing to take. Weak belief produces half effort and retreat at the first sign of difficulty. Strong belief produces commitment and endurance. The individual no longer measures effort by comfort but by necessity. They act because not acting feels more uncomfortable than resistance. Unshakable belief shields the mind from negative influence. Opinions, criticism, and doubt from others lose their power when the individual trusts their inner vision. This does not create arrogance, it creates independence. The person listens, evaluates, and decides for themselves. External voices become information rather than commands. Belief also reshapes self-identity. A person does not rise to the level of their goals, they fall or rise to the level of their self-image. When belief is strong, the individual begins to see themselves as capable, deserving, and prepared. This internal shift changes posture, tone, and decision-making. Opportunities are approached rather than avoided. Setbacks test belief, but they also strengthen it when interpreted correctly. Instead of seeing failure as evidence of inability, the individual views it as feedback. Each attempt becomes proof of effort, and each lesson reinforces competence. Over time, belief becomes rooted in experience rather than emotion. Unshakable belief also requires discipline of thought. The mind naturally drifts toward worry and comparison unless guided intentionally. Those who cultivate belief monitor their inner dialogue. They replace self-criticism with instruction and doubt with direction. This mental practice is continuous, not occasional. Belief thrives in an environment of consistency. Repeated action, even small, reinforces confidence. Every step taken, the direction of the goal confirms the mind's expectation of success. Momentum builds not through dramatic events, but through steady movement. When belief is firm, patience develops naturally. The individual understands that worthwhile results require time. Impatience fades because belief assures eventual success. This patience prevents emotional decisions and premature quitting. Unshakable belief is the foundation upon which courage, persistence, and focus are built. It transforms effort into power and intention into action. The individual no longer asks whether success is possible, but how it will be achieved, and then moves forward guided by certainty rather than fear. Persistence is the quality that separates intention from achievement. Many people begin with enthusiasm, but enthusiasm fades when resistance appears. Persistence remains when excitement disappears. It is the quiet decision to continue, regardless of mood, conditions, or immediate reward. Through persistence, effort gains depth and direction, turning repeated action into inevitable progress. Every worthwhile goal presents obstacles designed to test commitment. These challenges are not meant to stop progress, but to measure desire. When a person persists, they signal to their own mind that the goal is not optional. This signal strengthens resolve and reduces internal debate. The individual no longer questions whether to continue, only how to continue. Persistence transforms failure into refinement. Each unsuccessful attempt reveals information that would remain hidden without effort. Those who quit interpret failure as defeat, while those who persist interpret it as instruction. Over time, errors decrease not because conditions improve, but because understanding deepens. Skill grows through repeated correction, not through perfect beginnings. The habit of persistence reshapes character. It develops patience, emotional control, and resilience. The individual learns to work without immediate validation and to move forward even when progress is invisible. This inner strength becomes a permanent asset, applicable to every area of life. Persistence becomes less about the goal itself and more about the person being formed through the process. Resistance often appears strongest just before progress becomes visible. Many abandon their efforts at the point where continuation would have produced results. Persistence bridges this gap. It carries effort beyond doubt and through delay. The individual learns to trust the process even when outcomes are uncertain. Persistence also neutralizes fear. Fear feeds on uncertainty and hesitation. When action continues despite discomfort, fear loses its grip. Confidence grows not from success alone, but from proof of endurance. Each time the individual continues in the face of difficulty, self-trust is reinforced. Consistent effort compounds quietly. Small actions repeated daily accumulate into significant results over time. Persistence does not rely on intensity, but on consistency. It favors those who show up repeatedly over those who act sporadically with great force. Momentum is built through reliability rather than bursts of energy. The persistent mind becomes solution-oriented. Instead of focusing on obstacles, it searches for alternatives. When one approach fails, another is attempted. This adaptability keeps progress alive. Persistence is not stubborn repetition of the same mistake, but commitment to the outcome regardless of the method. Discouragement is a natural part of the journey, but persistence prevents it from becoming permanent. Emotions fluctuate, but direction remains fixed. The individual learns to act independently of feeling, guided by purpose rather than comfort. This discipline creates stability in uncertain conditions. Persistence also attracts support. Effort sustained over time gains recognition and respect. Opportunities often come to those who have demonstrated reliability and endurance. Others are more willing to assist someone who has proven unwilling to quit. As persistence continues, identity begins to shift. The individual no longer sees themselves as someone trying to succeed, but as someone who continues until success occurs. Quitting feels unnatural because continuation has become habitual. This internal transformation is often the true victory, long before external results appear. Persistence is the force that wears down resistance, sharpens ability, and transforms desire into accomplishment. And it does not demand perfection, only continuation. Through persistence, time becomes an ally rather than an enemy, and effort becomes destiny in motion. Thought control is the discipline through which a person governs their inner world instead of being governed by it. Every action, reaction, and decision originates as a thought, and the quality of those thoughts determines the direction of life. When the mind is left unmanaged, it absorbs fear, doubt, and limitation from the environment. When it is consciously directed, it becomes a powerful instrument of creation. The mind does not distinguish between constructive and destructive ideas. It simply accepts what is repeatedly impressed upon it. This is why control of thought is essential. By choosing what to think about, a person chooses what to become. Repeated thoughts form habits. Habits form behavior, and behavior shapes results. Mastery of destiny begins with mastery of mental input. Negative thoughts often appear automatically, especially under pressure or uncertainty. Thought control does not mean denying these thoughts, but refusing to entertain them. The individual observes them, questions them, and replaces them with ideas that support purpose and progress. This process strengthens mental discipline and reduces emotional volatility. Thought control also determines emotional stability. Emotions are responses to interpretation, not to events themselves. By changing the way situations are mentally framed, emotional reactions shift. Challenges become opportunities for growth. Delays become periods of preparation, and criticism becomes information rather than injury. This mental flexibility allows the individual to remain steady in unstable conditions. The ability to focus is a direct result of thought control. A scattered mind produces scattered results. When attention is intentionally directed toward a specific aim, energy follows. Distractions lose their appeal because the mind is engaged with something meaningful. Concentration deepens, and effort becomes more effective. Thought control also influences confidence. Confidence grows when internal dialogue is supportive rather than critical. The words spoken silently to oneself shape self-image. When the inner voice encourages effort and acknowledges progress, the individual becomes more willing to act. Action reinforces belief, and belief strengthens confidence, creating a self-sustaining cycle. External influence is unavoidable, but internal acceptance is optional. Thought control allows a person to filter information rather than absorb it blindly. Opinions, news, and social pressure are evaluated instead of internalized. This selective thinking preserves independence and clarity. The individual remains informed without becoming overwhelmed. Visualization is another aspect of thought control. When the mind repeatedly imagines a desired outcome, it begins to recognize pathways toward it. The brain becomes attuned to relevant opportunities and solutions. This mental rehearsal prepares the individual for action and reduces hesitation when opportunities arise. Thought control requires consistency. Occasional positive thinking is not enough to override years of negative conditioning. Daily mental discipline is necessary to establish new patterns. Over time, constructive thoughts become automatic, and destructive ones lose their frequency and intensity. A controlled mind responds rather than reacts. Instead of being driven by impulse, the individual chooses responses aligned with long-term goals. This restraint preserves energy and prevents unnecessary conflict. Calm decision-making becomes a defining trait. As thought control strengthens, clarity increases. Confusion fades because priorities are defined mentally before they are acted upon. The individual knows what deserves attention and what does not. This clarity simplifies life and sharpens effort. Mastery of thought is not an abstract skill, it is a practical necessity for anyone seeking lasting success. The mind, once disciplined, becomes an ally rather than an obstacle, directing effort with precision and shaping circumstances through consistent inner alignment. Decisive action is the bridge between intention and achievement. No goal, no matter how clearly defined, can be realized without action. Thoughts, plans, and beliefs have power only when they are translated into movement. Action gives life to ideas and transforms potential into reality. Without action, even the strongest desire remains dormant, and even the clearest purpose is meaningless. Many people delay action because they wait for perfect conditions, complete information, or full confidence. This waiting is a trap, because perfect conditions rarely exist. Opportunity favors those who act decisively despite uncertainty. Action, even imperfect, generates experience, feedback, and momentum. Waiting, by contrast, produces only stagnation and regret. Decisive action requires commitment. To act decisively is to accept responsibility for the outcome, whether it is success or failure. It is a declaration to the mind and the world that the individual will not remain passive, that they are willing to take control of circumstances rather than be controlled by them. This commitment activates mental energy and focuses attention on the steps necessary to achieve the goal. Action is amplified when combined with planning. A well-formed plan clarifies direction and minimizes wasted effort, but the plan alone is not enough. Action must follow immediately and consistently. Execution is the measure of seriousness, and without it, planning is merely imagination. Those who take decisive action create results faster because they adjust in real time, learning from the environment and refining their approach with each step. Decisive action also builds confidence. Action produces results, and results reinforce belief in one's ability to succeed. Each step taken strengthens self-trust, reduces hesitation, and encourages bolder efforts. Momentum grows as small successes accumulate, making future action easier and more natural. Confidence, once built through repeated action, becomes self-sustaining. Fear often attempts to prevent action. Fear of failure, criticism, or uncertainty can immobilize even the most capable individuals. Decisive action overcomes fear not by eliminating it, but by demonstrating that action can proceed despite its presence. Courage is strengthened each time the individual chooses action over avoidance, and hesitation gradually loses its power Consistency is an essential companion to decisive action. Sporadic bursts of activity produce little lasting effect. Persistent, purposeful action compounds over time, leading to results that appear sudden but are actually the product of sustained effort. Each day, each decision, and each effort contributes to forward movement, even when immediate outcomes are not visible. Action also fosters creativity and problem solving. When the mind engages with real situations, solutions emerge that cannot be discovered through contemplation alone. Obstacles encountered during execution challenge the individual to adapt, innovate, and improve. This active engagement cultivates resourcefulness and develops skills that passive thinking cannot produce. Decisive action creates clarity. The more a person acts, the more they understand their environment, their strengths, and their weaknesses. Indecision, by contrast, key. P.S. The mind cluttered with possibilities, doubts, and what-ifs. Action narrows focus because it forces choice, prioritization, and accountability. Ultimately, decisive action transforms belief into reality. Thoughts, plans, and intentions exist in the mind until action gives them form. Those who act decisively distinguish themselves from those who only dream. Action is the test of desire, the proof of purpose, and the mechanism by which success becomes inevitable. The habit of decisive action strengthens with repetition. Each decision to act promptly, deliberately, and consistently reinforces the individual's capacity to move forward without delay, cultivating a rhythm of accomplishment that becomes automatic. The individual learns to trust themselves to make choices, to adjust when necessary, and to persist in movement, even when the path is unclear, ensuring that ideas are no longer idle but become tangible achievements.